Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I will be your presenter here for the next 20 minutes. Today, we're going to be looking at what to do or what processes to follow when an individual or a family leave the church. So it could be for any reason. It could be someone within the family has passed away. It could be that the entire family is moving, they've switched churches, what have you. But we're going to look at that. We're going to look at how to clean up those records, still keeping the history of when they were active intact, but still removing people that have left from your database. So you're not seeing them showing up actively on your different reports that you run or labels, or seeing them show up as you're scrolling through and marking your attendance. All right. Couple housekeeping things I want to go over before we get started. We had, I think, a record high, which is exciting, of people that registered for that. So that's wonderful. A lot of people are interested in this topic, but I do want to touch on that there's two people here from Church Windows. It's myself and Josh. So if you have a question, you have to type that question in on your GoToWebinar toolbar. Either Josh or myself will get you an answer. Now, with the amount of people that we have today, please try to keep your questions topical. So if it has to do with a specific family or specific person in your set of data, that's probably going to be best handled with a support call or emailing us to support@churchwindows.com. Or if you have a question that's just completely off topic, please don't ask it through this platform. We would love to help you, and we would best help you through support instead of through the webinar. But if you do have a question about what I am going over, please ask it. We are happy to get you an answer. I don't look at the questions till after I'm done presenting, but Josh is there. So if you do have a question, please type it in, and he will do his best to get you an answer that way. As always, I am recording this. I will get it cleaned up and I will have it on the website by the end of the day for you to rewatch or even share with someone that you think might find this information beneficial as well. And I want to point out too, the information we're going over is from one of our membership workbooks. It's from the Membership 102 workbook. I'm going to go to our website real quick and show you where you can purchase this workbook if that's of interest to you. So on our page, let me refresh it here, churchwindows.com, under beginning, let's see, it looks like my page isn't fitting properly. Let's try this way. It's so interesting. I can't get the page. It's like this bar isn't loading properly in my browser. I was just here. Well, under beginning, you will go to, oh, they changed it. I apologize. Training options and then training workbooks. Right here, you can purchase our membership 102 workbook, which is what we're going over today. If you want to purchase it, print it yourself in a PDF format, it's going to be $12, or you can order a binder-ready pre-printed format from us that is $22, and we mail that to you. But again, we are looking at the Membership 102 workbook, and that's pages 7 through 8. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up membership, and I'm going to use the Bernard family here in People as kind of our guinea pig or our family that we're going to use an example with. So let me go to them real quick. It's a family of 4. So when an individual or a family leaves the church, there's going to be several things that you are going to need to do to make sure that that record gets cleaned up properly. All right. Now, if they have giving, you're not going to be able to delete them. And typically, if you've had a family that's been pretty active or been around a while that chooses to leave or that someone passes away, you don't want to lose that data. So what we call that when someone leaves is making them inactive. That is going to be the best practice for you to keep their data intact for you to reference at a later date if you need to, but still get them off of your quote unquote active roles, if you will. Okay. So for today's example, we're looking at the Bernard family, like I said, and we are going to use the example of Nikki passing away. All right. And what we need to do or adjust within her family to update the records to show that she's left, that she's passed. Okay. So first thing I want to talk about is making her inactive. So we're going to highlight Nikki Bernard, and then we're going to scroll to the right here to find the field that we need. This is the inactive field. Okay. This is the field that must be checked anytime someone has left or moved away. Now, you do have a status code field. This status code field is going to be for the status of this person within the church. Okay, so hitting the down arrow and choosing inactive member is not necessarily the best practice. What I like to tell people to do is actually leave their status code alone. I find it beneficial if you don't update the status code. This will allow you to go back and run a report of what active people passed away within a certain time frame. Okay, so that can be really beneficial for reportings, or if you have things you have to send off at the beginning of the year about church statistics. Keeping that status code as it is when the person leaves or passes can be really beneficial. Okay, now an inactive status, and people might be like, well, why would you have inactive status? You can use that if you have a member of your church, but say they haven't been coming around for a while. Some churches, someone has to be inactive for 3 years before they can remove them from the rolls. This would be a perfect example of when you would use an active member, even though they're not truly gone. They haven't transferred their membership or passed away. Okay. Hopefully that clarifies some things between status code and the actual inactive field. All right. So when someone leaves, passes away, is gone from the church, you need to mark them inactive. This is the field, like I've said several times, that's going to hide them from showing up and popping up on your regular rolls. As soon as I check that field, because Nikki is not in a household by herself, it's going to open up this wizard, okay? So this is what we call the inactive wizard, and this is going to help you make sure all the fields are properly updated whenever someone leaves, all right? So the first thing you have to specify once you've checked that inactive field is going to be the reason. Why are they inactive? Why have they left? These fields are customizable. You can hit the little pencil here, and you can add as many codes or descriptions as you need to suffice for entering a reason as to why someone left. So, if for Nikki's example, she's passed away, so I'm going to choose number 5 as death. And then there's also this inactive date. This field is really, really beneficial. It's not required, but it's really important for tracking when people have left or when they become inactive. So the inactive date, you can use the date of death if you wish for when someone passed away, or you can use the date that they've contacted you and said, I'm not coming around anymore for whatever their reason might be. The inactive date is always going to default to today's date. You can click in here and change it to whatever date you wish. Okay. Now, we're still working. As you can see, it says optional field changes for Nikki Bernard. The next thing down here is going to be the mailing label. All right, since Nikki is passed, we need to update this family's mailing label to just show the living spouse's name. Okay, so from this point forward, if we're going to send this family a letter or we're going to print a label for them, we don't want to see Mr. and Mrs. Evan Bernard because Nikki's passed, so we're going to get rid of the and Mrs. And we're going to update that family record to just show Mr. Evan Bernard. Okay. Now it's asking about changing the family relation. Okay. And again, we're still just working on Nikki here. We're going to hit the down arrow and we are going to choose deceased. Okay. That is her family relation now. Again, anywhere you have the pencil, you're able to go in and customize. So you can make up whatever family relations you wish to have. Also, you can change their status. If you feel strongly to changing that status to inactive, you can do so. Again, you can also leave it on active member. It depends on your procedures like we just talked about a second ago. Also, remove include on directory and directory report order for secondary. I'm going to leave this check. This is going to remove the check mark in the Include on Directory box on Nikki Bernard's record. And it's also going to remove the directory report order for her as well. All right. Next section, additional field changes for Evan. Okay, so this is her spouse. Family relation, we're going to change that as well. The widowed widower, and then the marital status, we're going to change that to widow widower as well. Now again, these have the pencils. You can customize those fields and change them to whatever you wish. Okay. There's also some additional field changes to consider that the wizard just mentions down here at the bottom. It's talking about family pictures or individual pictures. So if this family has a picture that you used for the directory, do you want to remove that photo? Is there an updated photo you need to put in? And then also, do you want to update or remove Nikki Bernard from any groups or classes? So maybe you want to assign an end date for her of when she was in a particular group or class. Those are additional things for you to consider. Are they required? No, but it's something to think about when you're updating a record. Okay. So I'm going to say okay here. And now when we look at Nikki Bernard, we see that her family relation now says deceased. Her record is in red. And as you can see here, inactive, her reason, her inactive date, and then it also shows here the updated mailing label of just Mr. Evan Bernard because he is the living spouse within the family. Okay. So that is what you need to consider doing in membership when one individual passes away. You also have this option here to make an entire family inactive if that's something you wish to do. Let's find a family here that has more than one person. So these two here, let's say the entire family has left. You can click this Make Family Inactive button. If you do this, this will make the entire family inactive, okay? And it's going to give everyone the same reason and the same date. So if the whole family is moving and you need to just pick everybody up and make them inactive, that's going to be the easiest way to do that. If you don't want to go through the Make Family Inactive button, you can still use the inactive checkbox like we did before. You would just have to repeat the process for each person within the family, okay? So that is what the membership book goes over, but I do want to touch on donations. So if you're using our donations module, there could be some things you need to consider about their giving, okay? So this is just something extra I've put together for you guys today. It's not in that M102 book, so if you're looking for it, it's not there. But it's still something to consider when people leave the church is what happens to their giving. Okay, so I want to talk about the Evan and Nikki Bernard. That seems to be a lot of calls that I get is where there's a couple, they give together, and someone within that couple has passed. Now what do I do? All right. So a couple things I want to point out. If we look at Evan's record here, we highlight Evan, we're seeing his information on the right. When I look over to his giver number field, I can see that he has number 22, right? Now, if I select Nikki and I look back to the right, she also has giver number 22, okay? What does that tell us? That tells us that they are a giving unit. The program sees any giving from Nikki, any giving from Evan. The program sees it as one unit. They get one statement. They give together. Okay, so in this case, there is nothing you are required to do over in donations. We updated the mailing label here. So when you go to print their statement, even though they both share number 22, the top of the statement is going to print that mailing label, which is going to say Mr. Evan Bernard. And then anything Nikki has given over the past year, when you go to print the statement, it's still going to show up on the donation statement that says Mr. Evan Bernard because she has number 22 and so does Evan. The program sees them linked. Okay. So if you have people in a couple, they're both check gives with family, they share the same number, there's absolutely nothing you have to do over in donations. Okay. Now, with that being said, you have another option, okay? This option is definitely more complex, but it is an option or things that I see different customers do when I talk to them on the phone. So sometimes there is one person within a family or a couple that has the number and that all the giving is on. So let's say, for example, between Evan and Nikki, let's say Nikki was the primary, the number was only on her and all the giving was only on her. Now Nikki's passed. If that's the case, you would need to transfer any giving off of that primary person that passed to their living spouse. And then you would also need to stop the number off the person that has passed and then reassign it onto the living spouse. Okay? So this would be the scenario you would use if you have a couple that only one person had the number and only one person had all the giving, okay? So you would go over into donations and you would, again, you do that transfer. And I'm not going to walk through the process of that because we don't have all the time, but if you go up here to givers, you would go to transfer donations right up here at the top. The from giver is going to be the individual that's passed away. And then the to giver is going to be their living spouse. You're going to then transfer the giving off of the person that's passed to the person that's living. And then the same thing with the number. You're going to come up here to manage numbers. You're going to end the number. So type in an end date for the individual that's passed away. You can do it back to the beginning of the year if you wish, or you can use their date of death. And then the new number, or the same number will then be assigned with a new start date on the living spouse. Okay. Again, there's two different scenarios that I see a lot, and those are the two. So if, just to review, I don't want to confuse you. If you have a couple, they share the same number, they give together, there's absolutely nothing you have to worry about doing over in donations if one of them passes. If they are not linked together and only the giving and the number is on, say, the primary person that passed, you would then need to move that giving and that number to their living spouse, okay? Two different scenarios there, all right? Definitely way easier just to check them both gives with family because then you don't have to worry about doing anything towards the end if someone passes away, okay? All right, it is 11:48. That is all of the information and a little extra that I wanted to go over with you from today's webinar.